wrap up stuff?
Yes, or slightly before. Just
Okay,
because,
just I
yeah.
just not want to not start a 6 minute answer at
Yeah.
8:47 or
Agreed.
whatever.
Agreed.
Wait, we got 4 seconds. Three, two, one.
Da, 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 da.
Looks like we have our participants joining. I'll wait a moment or two and allow for a few more people to get into the session here before we kick it off.
Good morning to everyone joining. Please feel free to go grab your LinkedIn profile link, throw it in the chat so people can be connecting with each other, connect with other people. This is about also networking, supporting each other as a group.
All righty. Well, we've given it almost a minute here, so why don't I at least get started? Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon for any of the participants who might be coming in from EMEA. I'm Howard Jacob, past president of the Intel Alumni Network, and I'd like to welcome you to our eighth in our series with Gina Riley on the path to next. We have a really packed session for you today, which will include not only Gina, but two other participants that work with her regularly and will be able to give you a lot of very actionable and valuable insights. Just a few ground rules to kick things off. Uh, we will be using the Q&A section of the Zoom platform to have you submit questions to the presenters. Do not put them into the chat. We do have the chat enabled. The chat is enabled so that you can speak amongst yourselves and you can also share contact information. So the only other topic I wanted to cover, or I guess two more things in terms of introduction. Uh, those of you who've attended these events in the past know that it's been one of our most successful series, that being the Path to Next. And if you value what we're providing, uh, Intel Alumni Network is a nonprofit. We welcome contributions to help sustain our programming that we can deliver very cost effectively, if not free, as we have been doing to you. So you can go to the intelalumni.org website and hit the contribute tab. And we look forward to your participation and welcome your contributions. So with that, let me turn it over to Gina, who's going to give you an overview of the session today and get things moving. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Howard. We have an action-packed hour. You're going to want to stay to the very end because the three of us, Marge Eng and Scott Crabtree, Gina Riley, we're all doing a raffle at the very end of some of our services and product offerings. The first thing I want to do is an announcement, though, and I had it on the wrong slide. Sorry for everybody. So I spoke to one of our Intel alums, Meredith Leach. She is amazing. She is working with an organization called FedCap on Encore fellowships. And in the past, we've had lots of Intel alums use this as a pathway to their next thing in life. And I am not going to read all the information on the slides because I'm so excited that Meredith and one of her counterparts is going to be joining us in August for one of these Path to Next sessions. So if you're interested in making a transition into nonprofit and doing high impact work. I've got this slide up here so people who are watching it on the replay can read the whole thing. So this is a very exciting way to, give back in your next career. You can be a person that comes from any different area of strategy, operations, IT, marketing, HR, or finance. Incredible way to um, do something as you're also navigating that path to next. So, some of the successful people in this program are usually mid level or higher in management with more than 20 years of experience with expertise in those areas that I mentioned. And it's primarily for transitioning from, your primary career into some kind of community focused work. I got a chance to talk to Meredith in this past week, and I'm so excited to bring this content and this as an option for your path to next. If you would like to learn more, because this session is all about career transitions, and we want to get right to that. Reach out to Meredith. Her email is on the bottom. And Meredith is also joining us as a participant today. She's going to drop her LinkedIn profile link in the chat. So hello, Meredith. I know you're here, and I want to quickly punt back over to our awesome guests that we have today. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to get right into it. So we have two amazing Intel alums today. And I'm so excited to introduce them to you. I'm pulling up their bios so I get it all right. So we have Marge Eng. She is an executive coach and founder of Blue Monk Leadership. She supports leaders and teams in building career resilience and leading for exceptional impact and results. She serves as associate director and executive coach at the UCLA Anderson School of Management and coaches at the Wharton Executive MBA program, leadership education for Asian Pacifics, Pfizer, L'Oreal, Shure, and Cisco. And previously, she held leadership roles in marketing, business strategy at global tech and entertainment firms and startups. She was at Intel for 10 years and held various marketing roles in the mobile products group and corporate brand strategy. She's got an MBA from Chicago Booth and a bachelor's in engineering from UC Berkeley. And she's an aspiring jazz musician. We're going to have a theme here, folks. We're going to have a theme. All right, Scott Crabtree. Scott lives in my little tiny town of Sisters, and I get to see Scott on the regular. How lucky am I? He is the founder of Chief Happiness Officer of Happy Brain Science. He holds a degree in cognitive science from Vassar College. He previously served as a leader in technology and video game development, including over 6 years as a leader at Intel. He was an engineering manager and tech strategist in SSG. And today, Scott is a speaker and coach. He teaches organizations how to apply the science of change management, happiness, and thriving at work. His repeat clients include Boeing, Nike, Intel, the National Park Service, NBC Universal, and DreamWorks. I am so excited that we have these two experts. As you can just hear from these brief credentials, this is going to be an incredible session. We are talking about how to navigate change, especially during a time when we have been potentially laid off or we've moved on from an incredible career. For those of us at Intel, it's a lot of us who are here on the call. So the purpose of this is to support you with content so that we can move forward with acknowledging the emotional weight of change and framing the journey for that positive and new tomorrow. So what I'd like to do is invite Scott to introduce the William Bridges transition model, and then we will start getting right into an incredible conversation. We welcome your questions in the Q&A. Scott, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gina. Thank you, everybody, for your valuable time and attention. I'm going to spend just a few minutes introducing to you a model that I find helpful and clients find helpful during times of change. So career changes are hard. You don't need me to tell you that. What you might not know is that solid science suggests solutions. So these are sources for this overview I'm giving you and a lot more information that we may or may not have time for, depending on how questions go. But all of this is science. Look, as you heard, I spent 6+ years at Intel, where many of us know that former CEO Andy Grove was famous for saying, "Everyone has an opinion. Some people have data." So my presentation style was honed at Intel, and so I come with as little of my opinion as possible and as much solid science peer-reviewed data as possible. So if you're skeptical and looking at the covers of any of these books and thinking science, this looks like pop psychology, self-help baloney to me, then let me assure you this is the real deal science with a random assignment, placebo control, peer review, and more. All of these books are in my recommended reading list, which I'm putting into chat. So what does all that science suggest? It suggests that we can nurture well-being through 3 distinct phases of transitions, even though most of us only recognize and therefore know what to do with 2 of them. That is, expert and author Dr. William Bridges argues that we are very good at recognizing endings and very good at recognizing beginnings. But due mostly to a lack of education, we tend not to be very good at recognizing there's something in between that he calls the neutral zone. So Dr. Bridges argues with a lot of data and wonderful examples from nature that virtually any time there's a significant change in nature, there's this neutral zone where it doesn't look like much is going on. So twice a day, for example, on the Oregon coast, the tide isn't really coming in or out. It's just kind of swirling around the bay for a little while. Deciduous trees for the past few months over the winter, were they dead? No, they were just kind of hunkering down. Classic cliche example, caterpillars turning into butterflies. What's going on in that cocoon? It looks like nothing from the outside, but in fact, tremendous innovation and growth can happen. My full-time career of 13 plus years since I resigned Intel to found Happy Brain Science is based on the fact that morale and productivity travel together. And I am not here to sugarcoat this. Neutral zones are painful and uncomfortable and unhappy for most of us most of the time. If you are between trapezes, as he puts it, or between jobs, as many of you are, it is unlikely to be a time with high morale and high productivity. To the contrary, it's probably going to be a time when your mood and happiness are down, your productivity is down, but actually your creativity and innovation can come way up during this uncomfortable time if you know how to make the most of it. So what do you do through all these cycles of change, which of course in days and times like this, we've got change on top of change on top of change. So as one example of many, on top of your career change going on, there's massive changes happening in the world with AI. This is a model. There's a quote I love from statistician George Box, who said, "All models are flawed, some models are useful." What does that mean? It means that any model is an abstraction of reality and therefore going to be imperfect. Does change always happen in this smooth curve? No, it's much more like a crazy crypto trading graph. But generally speaking, when endings come, we need to listen. We are grieving. We'll be talking more about all of these. I know Marge has lots to contribute on all of these phases. In neutral zones, we want to nurture ourselves and each other because we need boosts to morale, productivity, confidence, hope, and more so that we can encourage new beginnings. Folks, we're going to talk about emotions. If you're like my average Intel colleague, you're not like, yay, let's talk about emotions. But in fact, emotions, the science is crystal clear. How you feel is affecting how your brain works and what you get done and how successful you are in this transition. So very broadly speaking, and there's lots more detail we can get into if questions and time allow. Very broadly speaking, we move from uncertainty to skepticism, to exploration, to commitment. So just to use COVID as an example, a massive transition we've all been through, uncertainty is me at band practice in Portland, Oregon in very early 2020 saying, I hear there's a pandemic overseas. I hope it doesn't make it to the US. Skepticism is, do I really have to wash my groceries when I get home from the grocery store? Is that how this spreads? Exploration is, okay, if we're vaccinated and outside, can we have a dinner party again? And commitment is, thank goodness, we all know the virus is still out there somewhere, but we can commit to new ways forward and have dinner parties together again. Lots more emotions that we move through as we move through these stages. Lots more to talk about all these stages, but I just wanted to briefly introduce you to this wonderful science-backed Bridges model that helps us orient and make sense of the various stages we go through. And in particular, I want to help you all with the neutral zone that I believe you are in if you're on this call. One way I can help is to help you apply science to boost your mood. If your job hunting experience, career change experience is anything like most of my coaching clients and audience members, it is unhappy. So I have a happiness starter kit. It's a couple of ebooks and more. If you want that, you can text happy to 55444. Let me be very clear. This will put you on my mailing list. I email about once a month. I very rarely offer something to sell. Most of the time offer free tips. I will never share your email with anyone for any reason, and it is easy to unsubscribe if you don't value what I am giving you. You may not know whether you want to be on my mailing list yet because you've only heard me talk for about 5 minutes, so I might put this into chat later. But if you'd like, you can text happy to 55444. I look forward to the questions and interaction with all of you. That's enough from me for the moment.
Well, I can guarantee just being in your orbit, Scott, it's completely worth being on your email list. So there is that. So Marge, what I would love to shift into, thank you so much for that the overview of the model, Scott, is Marge, let's shift into where we start, which is endings. Am I right? Letting go and grieving that loss. So if you have anything that you want to screen share, if you want to just launch in, you know, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Gina and Scott. I'm very happy to be here myself, and having navigated many career transitions and much change, career pivots. I've been part of layoffs, restructurings. So this is a topic that's near and dear to me. So Scott mentioned endings, and sometimes we recognize endings, but we often don't take the time to process it. It's the messy stuff, right? Who wants to say goodbye? Who wants something to end? Often it's really comparable to grief. This is something that we suppress, as Scott and Gina mentioned. We at Intel, we don't show emotions. We're all about, we live in ARs. It's all about doing, action plan, to-do list, right? No time for emotions. It's very messy. It's difficult. So we don't go there. And even when we're let go from a layoff, we don't process it. We don't take the time. We're immediately going into job search mode without thinking about what's going on with us, how we're feeling. And often that kind of call it grief process gets displaced. And we don't properly process the stages of grief. We're in denial. We don't address what's happened, right? Or we put off what to do, or put off processing it. We get angry and displace that emotion, maybe lash out at our loved ones, right? It's blaming your boss, blaming somebody, blaming things, so that anger can be displaced, right? You're unusually irritable, or just difficult to get along with, right? There's sometimes bargaining where, if only I had worked weekends, maybe they wouldn't have let me go. Those kinds of things, the if only. What if, coulda, woulda. And then there's the feeling of being lost and stuck and just being distant, right? So that's the depression and the feeling like, you're just unable to move forward. And so what we're going to talk about here today is to kind of get you through that. How do you start to process that ending, right? Which brings me to my next slide, which is about what are some ways to think about this? Endings are difficult. I myself don't like endings. I don't like saying goodbye is tough, right? So yet, in order to move forward, to look at new beginnings, we need to accept what's ending. So this is a good framework for thinking about kind of processing what really happened in a very objective way. For instance, my team and I were among hundreds of people who were laid off, right, due to restructuring. So it has nothing to do with me and my performance, because I've had stellar performance reviews, right? So really, really being objective and accepting what happened without any kind of judgment or assumptions. What is ending and what's being lost, right? So, I'm ending my 5-year career at Intel or XYZ firm, and I'll miss my team and the great relationships I've built. However, also honor the past. What were some great wins and gains? What did you gain? Maybe you made some friends, gained some of those great relationships, and you had some peak moments. You launched some great products, right? You went through some highs and lows. So you had a good run. So honor that. And then the most important thing is, often we're so attached to our work and our career that our identity kind of gets embroiled in it. And that's why we feel very, very low, because you've done all these things, you spent your time, it's pretty much your life's work. And what do you do now, right? So there's that feeling of being lost. But it's important to detach that. There was a part of you that you brought into your job, into your career, skills, strengths, talents. That's always going to be a part of you that you'll take forward to your next venture, no matter what you do. So it's good to kind of step through all these steps and think about then, okay, what am I going to take forward, right? What do I want to do next? All right, so I'll tee it back to Gina or Scott if
Yeah.
you have anything more to say about endings.
Yes. So there's a couple things that came to my mind, and that is our identity is oftentimes very much wrapped up in what we do, right? And especially my experience at Intel, I felt like who I actually was, blue in my veins, right? So how do people reframe their identity when so much of their identity has been wrapped up in that culture and that environment? What would you say, Scott?
Well, one place to start is grounding in your values.
Mm.
So I've been hired by St. Charles Health System here in Central Oregon to put together my newest session is about building belonging. And the research suggests if you get people writing about their values, belonging insecurity, as it's called, goes down because you have a stronger sense of who you are. And as you alluded to, Gina, this is huge. I mean, what we do in the United States in particular is, hi, nice to meet you. What do you do? Right? What's your job? Is like your value, your identity, and our identities are huge. I mean, this is why getting laid off or going through other unwelcome career change can be so devastating for people. It's like, I am an engineering manager, I am a tech strategist, but I'm not anymore. Nobody wants me there. Like, it's devastating. So, lots of ways to find your value outside of your work. One is to ground yourself in values. The another idea, and then I'm eager to hear what Marge wants to add to this, but another idea I will share because it's literally right in front of me. Off camera up on my wall here, I have a few highlights from what I call my pick me up file. So we all have days where we're like, oh, that didn't go very well, or maybe I'm facing ageism in the job hunt and nobody's going to want to hire me or whatever. We have all anyone on this call has had some success in their life. You don't get to work at Intel by being a failure and a slouch and not ineffective. So I would encourage you to find or make a pick me up file with great reviews, thank you notes, awards you got while you were at Intel, thank you notes from friends or family saying what a great friend, child you are, parent you are, whatever. And when you're feeling down, you're more than your job, right? Get out those thank you notes and be like, oh, look at this sweet thing that Stephanie wrote to me a few years ago. Wow, look at the text on this division recognition award I got a few years ago. We did kick butt on that project. You have way more value than your job. Sorry, I said that was going to be the last thing, but super quickly, volunteer because you can contribute right now. It reduces loneliness, it boosts mood, and you have value right now, and the world needs you. Volunteer. Marge, enough from me.
That is so great because we just talked about Encore fellowships as well. So very timely. Scott, so well said. Marge, one thing I'm curious about is how do people go about processing the grief during this phase? Like that horrible, overwhelming feeling of I have just lost something so important and valuable to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and first step is not to suppress it. So process it, talk to a friend, get the support you need, just get it out of your system. I once, I was laid off and, I found myself at 2 a.m. looking on LinkedIn for jobs. And I shut my laptop and said, what am I doing? So taking the time to process, not to suppress those emotions, not to suppress, even if you feel you're feeling okay, it's an executive told me once to take some time to sit on the beach, a couple of days to just reflect and just be with yourself, acknowledge what's going on and values, as Scott said, that's an important time to revisit who you are again with so many years at Intel, you get sort of buried in the ARs and the doing and the tasks that you lose sense of who you are really. So I would say, take the time to process. Really, that's super important.
Thank you for that. And back in the day when I was certified in doing the William Bridges transition management at Intel, inside of Intel, they actually invested in people in that way where if you got reorged, it was still a change internally. Sometimes there was loss and churn, there was constant churn. And the one thing, my big takeaway from William Bridges' model is it's similar to a loss of a loved one. There's that shock and grief and disbelief that's happening. And I just wanted to bring that up for those that are listening who may not have read the very skinny little book on transitions. It's so awesome. But like you said, acknowledging that this is happening, and because unless it's acknowledged, it is very hard to have a springboard to move forward. Yeah, Scott.
I just want to pile on this awesomeness coming from the both of you. Psychologists use this phrase, name it to tame it, because if we can accurately label the emotions we're having, it seems to give us a handle on those emotions. And as Marge wisely said, sorry, enunciation struggles, more caffeine needed. As Marge wisely said, if we don't process grief and other difficult emotions, they can get displaced and come out as other unpleasant, unconstructive ways. Again, at Intel, look, I'll just indict myself and not everybody on the call or everybody who's ever worked at Intel. I didn't get into computers because I loved emotions so much, right? I got into computers because they did exactly what they said they were going to do, and it's ones and zeros and it's clear. So some of us who ended up at Intel could use a little help, and name it to tame it. It helps us move past those difficult emotions. An analogy I use here is it's like a fish hook in your skin. It's like, I don't want to take that out. That's going to hurt taking that out. And yes, it is going to hurt to say, I'm embarrassed or I'm humiliated. Todd, thank you for the question in chat. I'm getting that word off of that. Like, yeah, it is going to hurt taking that fish hook out. Your choice is to let it hurt intensely and briefly and then be able to move on and heal, or to say, I don't ever want to feel that intense pain of that fish hook, so I'm just going to leave it there for the rest of my life. And then you have a fish hook in your arm for the rest of your life. Forgive the gross analogy, but I just want to encourage people to be brave. Part of what you need during change and transitions is bravery, and part of that is emotional bravery to admit how you're feeling so that you can move past it and heal.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes from both of you and throwing them in the chat just so like those sound bites are not getting lost. And as a person that's done executive search and interviewed tons of people in my lifetime, when you carry that baggage into interviews, it does not serve you at all because the future decision maker isn't interested in that at all. There's too many job seekers out there. They're going to be going for those who are ready, game face, ready to interview. And I'm not casting aside the emotions that you have. I'm just saying that you got to be ready for that. And this is why Marge and Scott's material is so valid and important today. And Todd, again, I want to acknowledge your question and the feelings that you have behind that, because getting a support system is also an important part of the endings. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. Scott mentioned language. Seek the help you need from either a therapist or a coach to help you process and pull that out of you. And the naming it is super powerful. It may seem very rudimentary, but sometimes you name it, you start talking through it, and it has a way of kind of dissipating, right? Or it just has a way of kind of transcending, and before you know it, it's like, you've shifted your perspective completely. So it just gets you moving from the stuck phase to the, motion.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. If it's okay, with your permission, I'd love to shift into the neutral zone.
Can I jump in really quickly, Gina? Sorry,
Yeah.
before the shift to the neutral zone, I just want to, again, extend the wise thoughts coming from Marge. The science is clear that how we cope with hard times is huge. A big difference between low happiness, High stress people and lower stress, higher happiness people is how we cope with life's inevitable stress and hardship. And if you're in a career change, it's a hard time. So if you eat, drink, smoke, gamble heavily when hard times come, there's no judgment from me. You're not alone in what Dr. Anna Lemke calls a dopamine nation here. But science says if we can find healthier, more effective ways to cope with stress, we reduce stress and become happier. So, very briefly, there's a wonderful TED talk from Kelly McGonigal on reframing stress as energy. That reframing is great. But beyond that, cope effectively. Lots of science based ways to cope effectively. The top three, according to the research I've read, are the social support that Marge already mentioned. Don't isolate. Connect with people more than anything for your job hunt and your happiness and resilience and emotional well being. Connect with people. Social support is real effective support. Exercise. I am not your mental health provider. I am not licensed nor qualified to diagnose or treat anything. But the research suggests and exercise is as effective as antidepressants in treating moderate depression in the long run. Also helps your brain work better in addition to boosting mood. I wanted to be sharp on this call, so I went for a run before this call. And finally, meditation. Mindfulness doesn't have to be weird, doesn't have to be spiritual. It is a fantastic way to bring yourself into the present moment. I'm seeing some questions and comments coming in chat, and without specifically getting into some of them, if you can be in this moment right here, right now, which mindfulness is basically practice doing, you will thrive more, you'll be happier, you'll cope with stress more effectively. Thanks for letting me interject some top stress coping tools.
And I need to be a recipient of Scott's wisdom because I didn't sleep a couple nights this week and he has offered me meditation tips, so I need to take him up on that. I'm not sure if it was stress related, but nevertheless. So, Marge, let's shift into the neutral zone, the messy middle. And you know what? This is so juicy. I'm actually just thinking out loud. I feel like we need to have you both back to do another session because we have so much to talk about. So we may go there. Neutral zone. It's that time of the ambiguous creative phase where we start to discover and tap into what could be. Marge, will you take us there on like what that neutral zone is all about?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Whoops, hold on a second. I don't think my share quite happened. Here we go. All right, great. Yeah, so Scott earlier mentioned the metaphor of a trapeze, which is fantastic in describing what this is like. So this is a moment of ambiguity. Imagine like you're on the trapeze, the person on the left, right, who's about to move on to the next trapeze. So it's a big moment of uncertainty and ambiguity. As you, let's say you've said goodbye and you've recognized the ending, right? You've processed that. However, you're going, oh my gosh, what's next? What do I do now? I've got all this time where my days used to be packed, right? So acknowledging that ambiguity is a big part of it, right? Before you let go of that trapeze, it can be a scary time. Like, how do I swing from here to there? How do I get that moment when you let go of the trapeze, what if, right? All these what ifs suddenly come to play. Acknowledge that. Again, acknowledge that it's uncertain, it's ambiguous. There's a lot of fear associated with it. So it's a good moment to think about what got you here won't get you there, right? So it's part of this processing process of processing is all the skills, all the talents, all the strengths that you've had that you're bringing that into the future. However, it's how do you translate that then, right? That's the big ambiguity. So what new skills might you need to stay relevant, right? Many of us who are at that sort of late stage, more mid to late stage in our careers, you think about upskilling with AI, how do we stay, right at the cutting edge and making sure that we're still relevant and our skills are still relevant, right? So it's part of that recognition of what do I need to get there and move to the next step. So questions to think about are like, what am I yearning for, right? What's who am I now and who do I want to be? What's possible now? Some of those kind of open questions that are important to process and ask yourself. And then letting go of the trapeze is that process of letting go of the past and leaping into that unknown, knowing that you're going to take with you whatever it is that you've built up so far, including the embracing the ambiguity to jump into the next to grab your partner, the person on the right side, and move to the next step in your trapeze act, right? So, Scott?
I just want to, again, I just love what you're both bringing to all of this. And Marge mentioned strengths. These are so valuable. So for anyone who does not know, there are multiple strengths assessment in the world. The one used most often at Intel and in the corporate world is Clifton Strengths, formerly called StrengthsFinder 2.0 from Gallup. There are other free ones, including, I will type into chat, the VIA Character Strengths Assessment is free if anyone wants to take a strengths assessment without paying for it. But what are strengths in this context? They are not just talent, it's talent plus energy. And folks, I don't blame you if you have some assessment fatigue or some personality profile fatigue out there. It's like, I've done Myers-Briggs, I've done so many things. But strengths are awesome. When I'm coaching someone, I want to know what their top 5 strengths are because it's an indication of how your brain is wired. And some of us are wired to think about the future. Some of us are wired to think about the past. Some of us are wired to start projects, start prototyping right now. And some are wired to be careful and deliberative. There are 34 different strengths. If you know your top 5 strengths, you know not only what you do best, but what energizes you. You need energy in the neutral zone. It also helps with the identity crisis that we were all talking about earlier. If you're suddenly not an engineer anymore and you've got 4 degrees or whatever, what do? Well, focus on what your brain does really well. Helps you with confidence and helps you in interviews and helps you possibly innovate. This neutral zone that Marge describes so well, look, it's unpleasant, it's uncomfortable, but it is a best opportunity for innovation and growth. It's when we don't have the old and we don't have the new that we can discover a new career, discover a new talent, discover a new passion, and find an even better way forward.
I love this so much, Scott. I use the Strengths Finder within the UMAP profile because it also gives you your top values, which guides us in our happiness on whether if we have a values alignment with our work, then we're going to be more happy with that job. The skills that motivate us to do our work, it's not a skills assessment, it's like what motivates us and what demotivates us, and then our personality. And it's the Holland that Kristen Chair uses within that tool, and grounding in your strengths and knowing your what I call your awesome sauce, the things that you know for sure you know how to do that's different than 33 million other people that took StrengthsFinder. That helps bring you clarity for your unique value proposition. It's not your entire unique value proposition because you also have to suss out your career thread, the themes and patterns of your career, and how you're going to answer, tell me about yourself in interviews. But you start with who you are as a person. Marge, what would you have to add to the neutral zone and maybe ways that people can generate those ideas and get unstuck?
Yeah, I love the conversation about Clifton strengths. In fact, I just put another one, a standout assessment. I don't know if you all have heard Marcus Buckingham. He was associated actually with the same people that developed the Clifton strengths. And I love his because it's super simple. It's a 15-minute assessment. You go in there, it spits out a report that gives you kind of your top 2 strengths that you can then, and it tells you, kind of what actions you need to take, right? What behaviors you need to develop in order to show up at your best. For instance, I'm a connector. And I'm supposed to be strong at connecting with people and helping people see the big picture and connect the dots, which is probably what led me into coaching, right? So I that was my big transition, my big aha moment when I made through all my career pivots is recognizing, oh, am I really leveraging my strengths? And the standout strengths did that for me. It was very revealing and illuminating. So I encourage you to take the time to really get to know yourself first in this whole process. You will see far better results with your job search, whatever it is that you want to do next by knowing yourself.
I love that. So far we've covered in such brevity. I mean, it's probably driving you both absolutely bananas because there's so much to talk about. But we've talked about acknowledging the ending and getting grounded in what is changing. We have talked a little bit about the neutral zone and how that can be a creative space for you to generate new ideas and get grounded in who you are. I would love to shift into new beginnings because we have a lot more to talk about. New beginnings is when we are tapping into purpose and the picture of the future and our plan. Marge, let me kick it over to you.
Sure. I love talking about new beginnings, right? Now that we talked about the messy middle, so this is like the plan, right? Kicking our, this is our Intel nest, kind of kicking that into gear. The Bridges model talks about this as well, kind of the three Ps to think about it: purpose, picture, plan, right? Starting with purpose, this goes into what we were just talking about, starting with you, right? What are your values? What's important to you now? So thinking about, I know what's happened in the past and the endings, but let's look ahead. Who am I becoming? Who am I now? What's changed within my environment, right? What's changed? What are maybe some things that I'm yearning for that I've always wanted to do, that I put off, kind of these unfulfilled things, right? So that all goes into part of this purpose, right? Who do I want to be now? So take a big view, kind of a holistic view of you, and kind of what's important to you. Revisiting your narrative and your story, right? You have this great body of work that took you to where you are now. What does that say about you, right? Goes back to kind of stitching together your story and your back to the Clifton strengths and the standout assessment is who are you? What's that essence that your secret sauce or your awesome sauce, as Gina calls it? And as you do that, as you step from purpose, start to kind of envision your goals if you can. You may not know what it is that you want to do, and that's okay. It's going to be an iterative process, right? And as you think about picturing your goals, examine what's unfulfilled. You may have some unfulfilled aspirations. I've always wanted to do X. What is that? Or not, even if it's ambiguous, just write it down, get it down, recognize it, acknowledge it. And then finally, it's plan. And in this, it's more about a research plan. It doesn't mean you have to have all the answers. Likely you're not, right? What do you want to know and what do you want to learn? Information builds confidence, I say, and brings clarity also. Coming up with a research plan, what do you want to explore? What do you want to know more about, right? It may be, what courses do I need to take to get smarter about AI or whatever it is that you want to upskill with? Whom do I talk to? Who can help me get up to speed on this, right? Thinking about that kind of as part of your support network, and as you reach out and start to connect with people, thinking about that is what do I want to learn and what do I want to know to help me plan? So this could help you envision your goals more clearly. Step 2 and 3, the last two Ps could be iterative, right? As you learn more during your research plan, your picture becomes more and more clear. Scott, would you like
I always have things to add to your wise comments here, Marge. I love it. I just put into chat the title of a career, an article that I highly recommend that drafts off what you're saying. The article is a Harvard Business Review article titled "How to Stay Stuck in the Wrong Career." And basically, this Spanish academic, last name Ibarra, says when we want to make a change in our careers, what we try to do is come up with the perfect plan and execute that plan. And that almost always fails because we almost never have enough information to make a perfect plan. So instead, as you said, iterate, test, and learn. This reminds me of one of my favorite quotes. It's from E.L. Doctorow, and it's about writing a novel, but it can also be about career change. The quote is, "Writing a novel is like driving at night. You can only see as far as your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way."
Mm.
Navigating a career change, a layoff, or whatever, you can only see as far as your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way.
Mhm.
So, a few tools that I want to add that can help with this new beginning process that Marge has eloquently outlined. There's a book that I read a long, long time ago that I actually don't remember enough to know if I recommend it or not. But I do recommend one exercise that came out of a book called The Pathfinder. And that is to create 3 lists for your next job. Must have, nice to have, don't care. The analogy here is when you go to buy a house, it's totally overwhelming. And then eventually you figure out being on a quiet street is a must have. Being within 10 miles of where my kids are is a must have. A sunroom is a nice to have, and I really don't care whether it has a hot tub or not. Then all of a sudden you can see a house and evaluate it with more clarity. So, as Marge was talking about discovering what's important to you, what's next for you, can you sort over time? You're not just making these lists once in 5 minutes. You're keeping
Mm.
these lists around and over the months being like, that volunteer position I did made me realize working on a team is a must have for me, etc. The other exercise I want to recommend is called Best Possible Future. And this comes out of the science of happiness, positive psychology. Just put a link into chat. The notion here, I want to be very clear, this is not a SMART goal. I know we're all very good at SMART goals from our time at Intel. This is not that. This is a vision. It's not a fantasy. It's not I'm forward on the Boston Celtics and quarterback of my favorite NFL team. It's not a fantasy. But if everything goes as well as possible for 3 years in your career, what will it look like 3 years from now? The research suggests that writing, this is called active optimism. If you write down your best possible future, it nurtures optimism, which buoys mood, which buoys brain function, and makes that best possible future more likely to come true. And if you don't get very specific about dates and details, it's a kind of manifesting. And I put that in quotes with hesitation because I know my Intel people are like, manifesting, spare me the magical thinking. I used to be exactly the same way. And then a colleague at Happy Brain Science convinced me otherwise. Here's how manifesting can actually work. If you
Mm.
write down your best possible future without dates or details of how you're going to get there, you have this vision. And because your brain has this vision, it notices opportunities that might help you test and learn in that direction. So manifesting is not some magical, oh, the fairies are going to come and give me a job. It's, oh, I have identified that I want to work in a team, in a mission driven organization with a diverse set of people who care about other people, where I can use my engineering skills. All of a sudden, you hear someone in a coffee shop say something that you wouldn't have heard otherwise.
Mm. Oh my gosh. So good. I put that in the chat. Write down a vision of the future, and then you start to notice opportunities. So I have another question to ask you, and then we need to pivot into something that I think is super fun for our population, which is the raffle. And Michael Zuthin also has a poll to give out as well. So here's one thing that the two of all three of us discussed before we got on as a panel, which is, how do people how do they help themselves to stay optimistic and not get attached to outcomes? And this question triggered a memory that I had from an interview that I did with another Intel alum, Shantanu Gupta. He left Intel after about 28 years. I interviewed him about how he made his career transition. And one of his pieces of advice was, don't get too attached to the outcomes, because you go down the path and you're interviewing for a job, but it doesn't work out. Someone gets internally promoted. All these things happen. I'm going to pop that interview into the chat so people can read it. I'd rather not do the talking and punt it back to the two of you to close this out. How do people not get attached to outcomes and keep that optimism?
Yeah. I'll start. Stay present. It's kind of a theme today, right? Is take bite-sized steps as you sit down and plan. You're all Intel people, right? We all know how to plan, kind of put together a plan. Take I'm a fan of very, very small steps, small goals. And set your expectations realistically, right? Say that this is all about learning. You're in transition, you're going to learn, have this growth mindset, right? That I'm going to be experimenting. I'm going to be trying new things without judging or silencing. I want to silence that inner critic so it doesn't tell me that I'm screwing up and therefore, need to give up and stop, right? So just really setting realistic expectations or intentions, saying that you're going to be on this learning journey for the next 6 months and you're going to try different things, and to give yourself that chance to try it out and see if you like it or not, right? And creating your support system. So staying balanced is important. Having a partner, someone, a sounding board or a thought partner to talk things through, whether it's a friend, a buddy system. You could buddy up with someone who hopefully is, kind of balanced as well. It's very hard when you're dragging each other down, right? So try to keep yourself both accountable and stick with your goals, have your plan. One of the things that I encourage people to do is obviously, not to just to get outside of your head. This is why we talk about volunteering and being out there, is because we start to ruminate and we start to think the worst and we start to catastrophize, and before you know it, that's it, right? So there's always a safety net. So I like to think about back to the trapeze, right? There's always a safety net, and thinking about it that way, your mindset and your perspective will absolutely change the outcome. I strongly believe in that. So adopting that learning mindset can be very powerful. Scott?
Very, very briefly, you all can look up for more information something called the Stockdale Paradox. Admiral James Stockdale was taken prisoner of war in Vietnam. He was asked in the business classic Good to Great, who didn't make it out of the POW camps? And he said, that's easy, the optimists. They said, we're going to be out of here by Memorial Day. I mean, July 4th. I mean, Labor Day. I mean, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. And they died of a broken heart. The author asked Admiral Stockdale, who did make it out? He said, those of us that made it out had an unwavering faith that we would prevail in the end without attachment to specific dates or details. That's the paradox here. You have to have this unwavering faith that you will be successful. You will find your next opportunity without saying, and it's going to be at XYZ Corp on May 30th that's going to happen. That's the paradox. Optimism without dates and details.
That's incredible. So Scott and Marge, this might be way too big of an ask. And for those who are on the line today and listening to this, I can't even begin to tell you how much content that the three of us would love to deliver to you today. And 1 hour is just not sufficient. So if you're enjoying this, would you just throw in the chat? I would love to come back and hear more from these two amazing people. It would give me an indication. It would give Howard and James and Michael and I an idea too of like what is landing and resonating with this community. So if you could please put in the chat, tell me more. Marge and Scott both have offerings as well. We're going to shift into a raffle, and we also have a poll. Michael, I'll need you to start pulling yourself in here. I'm out of my skin, Marge and Scott, because I know we could just talk so much more about this. I have such a passion for everything that you're saying. Michael, are you with us?
I am, and I'm going to invite Howard here also to tee this up, and then I'll launch the poll.
And as you tee up, I'm hearing people in the chat. I'm hearing you. Thank you for letting us know that this is valuable to you. Marge and Scott, I'd like to invite you to make sure that your contact information is in the email chat too. So feel free to do that while we tee up the raffle. Michael?
Yes, Howard, do you want to tee it up real quick?
Yeah, we have two things. One, as Gina mentioned, is we have 9 raffle prizes to give away, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. In addition to that, many of you may know that post-COVID, we've done more virtual events than we've done face-to-face events, but we're starting to get back into face-to-face. And as part of that, we have a new leadership team up in Oregon who wants to create these events for the Oregon chapter participants.
Wow.
So they asked us to put up a brief survey, just 3 questions to help them in doing the planning. And if Michael will share his screen or however you need, there it is. Okay, great. I'd ask any of you up in Oregon to please take a couple of minutes and answer these questions. As soon as that's done, we'll give you, 3 or 4 minutes. We'll move right into the raffle. So
Excellent.
while they're filling everything out there, Gina, do you want to explain how the raffle is going to work?
Sure. What we're going to do is we're just going to go successively. Scott Crabtree is offering for 3 lucky people in the audience either a choice of his Thrive from 9 to 5 course or Choose Happiness at Work game. So excited. Michael, but this is our first time to do it. So I'm just going to say if anything goes awry, we're taking risks like good Intel people. And your name, if you're on the line, you're in this raffle right now. You need to be present to win. You need to be an Intel alum, retiree, or current employee. And we would love for you to also register as an Intel alum at intelalum.org as well. So Michael, take it away. Let's give away 3 of Scott's awesome offerings.
All right, all right. I'm gonna hit the spin button.
Okay.
What happens?
And the winners need to email Scott Crabtree at what, Scott?
Scott at happybrainscience.com in chat, along with links to the 2 products you can choose from. So Heather B, congratulations. Send me an email and let me know whether you'd like a happiness e-course or an online version of this card game called Choose Happiness at Work.
Yay.
Okay, gonna spin again.
Yes.
Boy, that big wheel with a lot of names on it doesn't
It's a
spin very
lot.
fast, does it?
Good job, Michael.
Better odds than the lottery, though, right?
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay, we're doing my 3 first, right? So Brandon B,
Yes.
again, email me. Let me know whether you would like the online game or the e-course, both of which teach happiness at work and during job
And the
hunt.
last one for Scott.
And Claire.
Congratulations to Heather, Brandon, Claire. Email Scott right now, Scott at happybrainscience.com. Thank you for attending. We are now going to raffle off a 45-minute, oh my gosh, 45-minute career coaching session with Marge, who is happy to discuss anything related to your career transition and beyond. So let's go ahead and hit it, Michael.
All right.
Meredith. Congratulations, Meredith. You are a lucky first winner of and then Marge, where are we emailing you? Marge at bluemonkleadership.com. It's right at the end of the chat.
Yeah, or connect with me on LinkedIn. You can message me there as well.
David P, you are the second lucky winner of a coaching session with Marge. Congratulations. And our third lucky winner is Kat. Please reach out to Marge on LinkedIn or the email that's at the end of the chat. And last but not least is a 30-minute LinkedIn profile or resume review with me, yours truly, Gina Riley. Let's spin it.
I love this wheel. This is fun.
Yeah, nice.
It's a little
Should do this
mesmerizing.
more
Like
often.
It is. It's hypnotizing.
Okay, Lucas, congratulations. And then the next person, so reach out to me at Gina at GinaRileyConsulting.com. We'll schedule something.
Right.
Brett, congratulations. And I think the 3 of us would also love to have your LinkedIn profile so we like see who you are as well. So please connect with us. So Lucas A, Rhett L, and then we've got dun dun dun. Tamar, congratulations. So Lucas, Rhett, Tamar, email me at Gina at GinaRileyConsulting.com or connect with me on LinkedIn. We are so happy and delighted to have been here to provide this content. And if I can twist some arms with Marge and Scott, I really want to have these 2 people back because I know that we're all stretched right now. This is a really challenging time in our whole ecosystem for all the reasons. And I am just so humbled that Marge and Scott were willing to volunteer their time and be a part of this community and bring their wisdom here for everyone. So please send them love, say thank you, all the things, because every single person running this on the line, all volunteers. So I appreciate you, Scott. I appreciate you, Marge. Thank you. Do you have any parting things that you would want to say as we conclude before I punt to Howard?
Oh,
I,
you were handing that to me, or were you asking?
No, I'm gonna
Scott?
punt to them. Just like, do you have 30 seconds? You want to
Perfect. Go
finish
ahead.
with Marge, and then we'll go to Scott.
my 30 seconds is this. It's not this easy, but largely the science indicates that happiness is a choice, and there are choices we can make to be happier, even if it's for a little bit happier for a short time in a tough time. So happiness is not binary and it's not passive. All kinds of recommended reading I can help you with, but my 2 words to leave you with are choose happiness.
I'm like trying to breathe that in right now. I literally took a big breath. Scott was,
I need
Marge,
to
any
too.
parting words before we punt to Howard?
Yeah, for me, it's, slow down to speed up. So again, it goes back to we've lived in ARs and it's all about going, going, going. Why is my job search not working? So it's like, slow down, get to know yourself, figure out what's really going on, take the time to process, in order to move forward. So those are my parting words. And thank you for allowing me to share and be here with you both. It's such a pleasure and an honor.
There was a lot to do. We had a lot of turf to cover, and I would love to do more. Thank you, everyone who's putting things in the chat. Let us know if this is valuable and you would love another go at this material. Howard, how would you like to close it out today?
Well, first of all, thank you, Gina. Thank you, Marge, and thank you, Scott. Another outstanding program. As I had mentioned before, this is the 8th in our Path to Next series with Gina. And if you found this content and the other content from the rest of the series, as well as our other events, to be of value, we humbly ask you to make any donation you can that you feel comfortable doing. You can do that at intellalumni.org and click contribute or donate. I forget which button it is. We are a 501c6, so it's not tax deductible. But again, we want to continue to deliver this kind of valuable content to our community, and any little bit will help. Last but not least, the other thing that, in addition to thinking positively and choosing happiness, is the importance of community. And the Intel Alumni Network is one vehicle by which you have a community that can provide support and help you in terms of networking for opportunities and other things. So I invite you to become more active, feel free to reach out if you'd like to volunteer. You can reach out to me if you have some ideas along those lines at howard@intellalumni.org. And other than that, thank you very much for your participation. And we look forward to seeing you at our next events.
Yes, June, second Wednesday of June, we're going to be talking about LinkedIn profile optimization. I have two amazing gurus for the panel. So thank you, Marge. Thank you, Scott.
Excellent.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
again, everyone. Have a good afternoon and evening.
Take care.
Bye.
Marge and Scott, thank you so much. We delivered a lot today.
I think
Yes.
you did. Yes,
You did.
absolutely. Michael, there you are. You came out from working. All right. Have you ended it?
I can't end I have to end it for all.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Whatever you say, there may be people on the line. Marge,
Well,
Yeah, they're dropping off quickly. So we're
yeah.
good.
Hey,
Marge,
Michael, have you captured the survey results?
Yeah, and I'm gonna email them to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Worked out well. I guess we had about a third